All right, welcome, welcome. Welcome to masterclass number 3 in the series of A State of a Wish Fulfilled. So, if you've joined us for part 1 and part 2, then this is the perfect extension and bridge into the final part to wrap it all up. So, to begin, this is all about persistence, persisting in your assumption. Persistence is the secret ingredient. And just to quote Neville here, it's not what you want that you attract. You attract what you believe to be true. So this is very, very important to tune into. You attract what you believe is true. And I could go into a lot more detail here. Is what you believe to be true is what you feel fully at the level of the nervous system, what you feel fully at the level of emotion. That's what truth is. So a lot of people think, well, how do I know what's true in my mind? Do I need to believe it before I see it? It's quite the misconception. That is a borrowed line expressed from third dimensional thinking, that I need to believe it, I need to see it before I believe it. Whereas the nervous system and all the electrical wiring and impulses that are going on are giving you in time, although albeit slightly delayed in a quantum perspective, slightly delayed data on you see something, you imagine something, you choose to experience something at the level of the nervous system. And this is where Neville was going to. So he was very advanced for his time, all the way through from the 1920s, right up until his transition in 1972. And although quantum mechanics and quantum entanglement has moved and progressed quite substantially since then, his interpretation and his guidance and his interaction with source as source and his interpretation of scripture um, is absolutely phenomenal. So let's just bring it back to this. It's not, you don't attract, it's not what you want that you attract. It's not, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you believe to be true. Okay, so we're going to move on that. This part 3 is really that perfect extension. So far, we've awakened the power of your imagination. So, imagination is a creative act. You are a creative being. You are pure imagination. So, therefore, as we move from imagination into crafting your very specific scene, which is the state of the wish fulfilled in SATS, this state akin to sleep, nice and relaxed, alpha brain waves teetering into the theta brainwave state, very relaxed, very receptive. You are performing an act, a spiritual act at the level of the nervous system, using your imagination to prime your nervous system. And essentially, getting a little bit advanced here, you are moving your space time coordinate from where your physical body is to where your spiritual body is in your imagination. So if you want to be in a different country or sleeping next to your mate that's not next to you, or in the perfect job, you are moving space-time coordinates and observing yourself through the language of emotion and feeling to that preferred reality. And that's what you experience. That's how you shift realities. That's how you bring quantum, collapse the quantum into the third dimension. Yeah, is that cool? So we learned how to surrender the how while trusting the bridge. And the bridge of incidents, remember, we spoke about that, the bridge of incidents. And quite often we can only see the dots looking back. We can only see the dots looking back, meaning that we believe we're in a random series of events that brings us to the fulfillment in the third dimension of our desires. And only when we rest in the fulfillment and look backwards, think, oh, that needed to happen. I needed to meet this person. I needed to lose that job. I needed to have that cancelled. I need to have this. You know what I mean? So we start to judge what is happening in the third dimension as an immediate reflection and effect of our change of circumstances within ourselves. And our change of circumstance is all determined, predicated on how we feel. So you can change any point of space-time reference and place yourself anywhere in a new continuum of reality and a new experience by first enrolling yourself within the body emotionally and spiritually. So let's dive in from here. So now we turn to the real work, and this is the real work of embodiment. I've heard so many people over the years get incredible wins, but they don't last, or they are confident in sharing small things, experiencing small wins, things that they think, oh no, I've done that 100 times. That just is old hat to me. But in their mental construct and the meaning they assign to bigness, meaning more money, better career, better relationship, moving house, moving countries, whatever it may be, there's largeness now, there's dimension. And so we're observing our dreams and desires through the lens of third dimensional meaning and definition. So when we start to do that, we start to then place weight upon our nervous system and weight upon our thinking. Oh, that's bigger, or that's further, or that's going to take a long time. So you can start to see now that we are trapped in a space-time coordinate that is third dimensionally driven and is occupied in the third dimension because of weight, size, and impact. Yeah. So embodiment happens outside of the third dimension. Embodiment occurs within the body yourself as a multi-dimensional creator, as a creative expression, a creative spark of the divine. So because if imagination is the match and the assumption is the spark, then this, what we're going to talk about today, persistence is the flame that keeps it alive. Yeah, does that make sense? So it's the flame. So you're keeping your flame lit from within. And the flame, as we'll move towards and discuss, is faith. Okay, faith in the unseen. That which is seen through the eyes and language of feeling is entered into, is embodied. You are enrolled into feeling it and seeing reality through the lens and the eyes of your inner reality, your quantum self, rather than looking outside of you and seeing with physical eyes, physical dimensionality, and wondering why it's taking so long, which keeps us trapped in the how constantly, constantly. Match, spark, flame, 100% right there. Okay, so the theme for today is about consistency, confidence, and identity. This is how we lock in the shift. Consistent, confident, identity claiming, meaning you claim it for yourself. I wouldn't be in Ireland if I didn't claim it for myself. You wouldn't be where you are unless you claimed it for yourself. You wouldn't be with the person you are and the job you are or whatever it may be unless you claimed it first for the self within the identity. So in the previous two masterclasses, we've discussed a number of challenges that often come up for people in pursuing, inverted commas, pursuing the wish fulfilled, in trying to have their wishes fulfilled and making that happen. So here are the two final ones, the two final challenges we're going to solve today. First, I struggle to stay consistent. So just type in a 1 if that's you. I struggle to stay consistent because self-doubt comes in, and then I get enrolled in the how, and then I start thinking about the bridge of incidents and how do I need to control what building blocks are forming the bridge ahead of me rather than you projecting your energy. So the second is the spiral into negative emotions and doubt, because we often judge ourselves and think, oh, I'm not doing it right. I'm having a bad day. My pendulum has swung in the opposite direction to feeling good. So I judge it and therefore fear that I'm breaking a contract. I'm breaking the vibrational threads between myself and my desire being fulfilled. So I start feeling anxious which then sets up the loop of how do I get it going again? What do I need to do? Yada, yada, yada. Okay, so let's get into this. We're cool. Just type in a number 2 that you're cool, you're ready to move into the next segment door. Fantastic. That's cool. Yeah, cool as a cucumber. Love it, Craig. Okay, so the first core teaching here is persistence trains the subconscious mind. And so if you've been around any subconscious mind reprogramming content from any of the early or late 20th century authors, you will know that the subconscious is the long-term programmer. So it receives information, and provided it receives repetition or information in a repetitive way, methodical way, then you can use the power within the subconscious to train the third dimension to reflect back to you that which you want. But quite often we operate unconsciously and we're priming our subconscious with information that does not align with our preferred reality. That's where we start getting hooked on the past being projected into the future, and we stay in this reality loop. So here we're going to discuss, so an assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. So there's Neville's words right there. An assumption, though false, it appears false to the senses. Remember the fifth five senses, which are the third dimensional, the physical. But if the assumption is persisted in, what you assume will become fact. Remember, the facts, artifacts, are historical objects, information. So everything that is rendered outside of you and reflected back from the third dimension is the past. And you may have heard me share that with you before. So your previous thoughts, feelings, assumptions, and actions are staged and stacked sequentially and often bundled when they're thick enough because you're repeating the same threads. They're all staging what is now being reflected back to you. So everything that's in what you see in your bank account, your home life, your love life, your career life, your business life, spiritual life, everything you see outside of you that's reflecting back to you now, that you believe in the physical dimension is real, is the past. It's noise. Okay, it's an interference pattern. So it's like you've got a three-letter agency working against you, but it's not. It's actually your past vibrating at a slower rate. Okay. And if anything that I share with you is a bomb drop for you, just type in boom or wow or something like that. Okay. So what to say? So what do you say here? You don't need to believe it instantly. That's huge. Just I'd invite you to feel the relief in that. I don't need to believe this instantly. My imagination and my desire is evoked, primed, stimulated. I want this thing and I really want it. But here's the comfort blanket, okay? Is I don't need to believe it instantly. I can move into it gradually. You know, if you find a new home, you don't move everything in one, even though you might have one truck or three trucks or, you know, a suitcase that you're moving into, it doesn't matter. But you unpack things one at a time. Take one item from the truck at a time to move into the house. That's the same analogy as this. So you want to wade into the water, walk into the home, one experience at a time, so that your nervous system can actually start to calibrate up into what your desire being fulfilled feels like. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you just need to practice assuming it repeatedly. And the word assumption is like occupying. Again, same as being in this home. Some of you may have heard of my story, this example. I like to prove that I'm doing what I am sharing with you because there's enough people out there that are just rote learned and sharing what they've heard other people work, but it's not working for them. Moving into this home is the same principle. I physically and spiritually, energetically and mentally occupied this home before my wife and I moved into it physically. Okay. So I occupied the home. That's assumption. So I assumed that I was sleeping in our master bedroom. I was assuming that my space-time coordinate was here in this office with this window looking out at that field with this light. Does that make sense? So we go back to the beginning of this conversation in Masterclass. You are shifting space-time coordinates by using your imagination correctly. When you use it correctly, you're moving towards, not away from, your preferred reality. Yeah. And the way to embody the preferred reality is by you must inhabit it. You must move into it. Yeah. So every time you repeat the end state, sleeping in the bed, walking on the floor, looking at the scene, writing the note, the check, whatever it is, every time you repeat the end state, you impress it deeper into your subconscious. So the more you do that through the language of feeling, then the subconscious, as the feminine principle, just receives that pure information and sends it into the field. So the subconscious and the superconscious have a beautiful bridge. They are connected. Yeah. So this is why Neville said persistence is more powerful than willpower. Willpower often revolves around motivation. Like, I'm going to motivate myself to do it. And if you're anything like me, motivation often burns off, whereas persistence feels like inspiration. I'm doing it. Inspiration is more powerful. I'm inspired to move into this home. I'm inspired to travel the world. I'm inspired to partner in this relationship or spend, invest, share, receive this level of money. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. So consistency has a 3R formula. Very, very simple. The first one, routine. So anchor sats to bedtime or any time during the day where you can bring yourself into a relaxed state, 2 to 5 minutes at night. It might be a case that you switch everything off and you're doing your breathing and you relax. And then for 2 to 5, maybe even 10 to 15 minutes, you're relaxing down. Imagine that you're descending a staircase. You're going from a well-lit room through a door, descending down into ambient lights and then into softer light, so that your brain waves are going from beta, potentially getting ready for bed, into alpha, more relaxed, and then down into lower states of alpha and then into theta. That's where you're running your scene. And the scene is feeling based. Yeah. So first R is routine. Second is reminder. So use wallpaper, a bracelet, or post-it notes with your identity phase. So it's good to actually have some reference points around you until you build up the nervous system confidence, or confidence within your nervous system, and strength within your emotional frequency. So that's why some people love, what do you call them? Vision boards. Could be a tune that they're playing on their phone. Could be watching certain shows about it. So you're just saturating your subconscious mind the whole time. And the third R, of course, is repetition. Loop the same scene daily. Don't keep changing it, because when you change it, you're often sending the signal to the subconscious that you don't know what you want, that you're confused. And so it's not going to judge you. And I'll say she because it's the feminine principle, it's the receptive principle in manifesting. There's no judgment, it's impartial. It does not matter what you send it, it is going to welcome openly the information that it receives. So it's up to you to be masterful in the direction and flow of information to the subconscious. Cool? So manifestation is a relationship with your future self. Show up daily for it. So it's a relationship with your future self, which means it exists. Now, if we think third dimensionally, again, being a bit more advanced here, the future does not exist, nor does the past. The third dimension is rendering and referencing what you have previously encountered and entertained, thoughts, feelings, actions, assumptions, rendering it back to you. So if you don't change that loop, then what renders back to you is your past becomes a predictable future. So you stay almost in stasis. It's like this in-between world. You're frozen in time. You're frozen in a loop. However, if we move out of the third dimensional thinking, that There is no future. You are now progressively shifting space-time coordinates into a new reality that exists and vibrates simultaneously with the one you're in right now through the language of feeling, through the persistent, repetitive activity of programming your subconscious mind through feeling. Yeah. Cool. No one's dribbling yet. No one's getting a headache. Like, oh my gosh, this is over the top. Birthing a new identity. Absolutely love that. Inside out, 100%. Right, so let's go to the second core teaching here, just to clean up those two challenges from the beginning. So emotions don't cancel the end state. Remember, we started talking about this, unless you assume they do. I'm going to read that again. Emotions do not cancel the end state, meaning you're the state of the wish fulfilled. Okay. Unless you assume they do. You can't feel fear and still persist in the assumption. You're either pregnant or you're not. You're either hot or you're cold. You're either there or you're here. You're either then or you're now. Can you see? There's a pattern. So the only way to experiment, the only way to strengthen this assumption muscle is to practice. Find your edges. Find what feels good. Find your lane, your groove, and not give attention to those emotions. Like saying here, so the reframe is negative emotion is not a sign of failure, it's a sign of transformation. Because your awareness now is, I get to be human whilst I'm staging and rendering a new reality for myself, deliberately, intentionally, and masterfully. But because I'm human, or in my humanness, I might have a negative day or a negative moment. I might be grumpy or grouchy or down or frustrated or overwhelmed or anxious or whatever it may be. It does not cancel the end. Unless, like I said here, unless you assume it does. Like, oh, now I've thrown in the towel. This is where people that have maybe not as much confidence in themselves, maybe not as much confidence, excuse me, in their ability to manifest their reality, they beat up on themselves. And maybe you know one or two of those people. Okay, maybe you've been there yourself and you've observed how far you've come relative to that. So you don't need to feel good to create good. You need to remain faithful to the scene. Does that make sense? So if I'm good, then I won't be judging myself. And therefore, I won't be judging my ability to create a new reality. So it's science, it's quantum, it's spiritual, it's all interlinked. That if you give your subconscious mind a very specific set of instructions and you waver from them every now and then, but you don't judge the wavering, as soon as you're aware of it, as soon as your attention shifts and you become aware that you've spiraled outside of your lane, just bring yourself back and strengthen it by reimagining, by moving yourself into that state, by moving back into that metaphoric house or mansion. Does that make sense? That's how it works. It does not care less. And I say it, the field, your subconscious, it's not going to judge you the way that you do or have been doing. So the doubt protocol here. So feel it and name it. So if doubt comes up, really feel it. So, gosh, I really feel that this is not going to work out, or I really feel heavy today, or I feel not as clear, and therefore I'm not as confident. And then name it, acknowledge it, and say, and still it is done. Return to the scene. So it doesn't need to be as elaborate as that. It can happen in the blink of an eye. Awareness, I don't feel good. I'm in my head. I'm not in my heart. My inner being is over here where I prefer, and it's sending me that way. I'm just aware that I'm getting in my own way, but I'm not judging myself or or the language of emotion that I'm expressed right now. Doesn't mean you can stay there for as long as you want. You can if you want, but it's like, how long do you want to punish yourself for? So give yourself the day, give yourself the hour, the minute, the couple of days. Feel what you need to feel, name it, and still it is done because you're loyal to the unseen. You're faithful to the unseen. Cool. This is a really, really helpful exercise, by the way. I know some of you have probably done this before and continue to do it. So it's Neville's revision technique. Really, really good, regardless of what day you've had. Regardless of what day you've had. So, yeah, frequency moving away and, yeah, finding a way to stay relevant. Yes, perfect. Very cool. Very cool. More with good days. Yes. So whatever you reacted to today, revise it before bed. Replay it how you wished it had gone. Now, this is a masterful act. This is a masterful act in itself. It does not matter whether it was a conversation, an internal one, it was a non-verbal conversation, meaning you gave someone the bird in the traffic because they cut you off and you stayed totally burning up and furious for an hour after it. It doesn't matter. Upgrade anything and everything that moved you out of the vibrational coordinates of your desire. That's mastery. And so you think, if I can create realities using my imagination, then I can recreate realities to my preferred, to my liking, using my imagination. And so the imagination mixed and merged with feeling becomes reality. So if you just think, oh, I was just driving and they didn't cut me off, but your conscious mind says, but they did. I can't change that they didn't. You're missing the point. Your revision right now of that person cutting you off, you touch the brake, you slow down with enough time, you go, wow, they're clearly in a rush. Maybe I'll just send them some blessings. You felt good. You still got to work on time or maybe a bit late, but it all timed up. You're now freeing yourself from that event as an emotional discharge within your nervous system. You're now freeing yourself from that event finding you again in the future because you haven't released it or upgraded it. Does that make sense? So now, because you're free from the negativity or the contracted perception of that event, you're now up an octave in consciousness. You feel more relaxed. You feel more empowered. You feel like you've got your energy back rather than leaking it to external forces deemed as powerful when they're not. Yeah. Okay. So why it works? Let's get into this. So it resets the dominant impression in your subconscious. So resets that, it upgrades it. It assigns your inner world with your desired state, aligns rather. So your outer world mirrors it back. So essentially what I was just saying. So your past is now not becoming a predictable future because you're highly reactive to everything and you're not upgrading anything because you believe that what you are reacting to is true and is unmutable, unchangeable, and is out of your control. You're going to meet a whole lot more of that in your future because you haven't understood the upgrading principle of your imagination, the revision technique. Is that cool? I love that. Absolutely love it. And it's a big penny drop for uh, for emotional freedom and to be actually mentally, emotionally, and spiritually free and physically free in the world. Yeah. So here's what I'd like you to try and enter into the practice of the daily triple. Okay, so I call it the daily triple. We've got SATs, assumption, and revision. So if you want to take a screenshot of that, please do. So doing your state akin to sleep at night or during the day, but obviously when you're used to winding down, that's the perfect time. Feel your wish fulfilled in your imaginal scene. Feeling is the secret, remember. Okay, it's one of Neville's books. Assumption anchor, say this is who I am now. But more advanced, let's shift into that more advanced mode. You say through your feelings. You say more powerfully through how you feel. This is who I am now. I can feel this is who I am now. And you practice that. The mind will say, this is who I am now, but that is secondary in its power. You might start there, but understand that feeling is the language of the universe, okay? Language of creation. So revision ritual, rewrite through your imagination or actually literally write it down if you're a journaler or you like to be more practical, down to earth, pen to paper. Any moment from the day that contradicted your end state. Any day, anything that did. And it may not be related to anyone in particular. It could be that you move the needle because of your perception of reality. Maybe you're getting a bit impatient. Maybe you're getting a bit frustrated. Maybe you're feeling a bit overwhelmed. It had nothing to do with any interaction with anyone else. Rewrite that, okay? Because that rewritten is what's going to meet you into the into tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, so what's some of the quick little takeaways here? Just type in what's really dropped in for you right now. Revising the day regardless. Yeah, nice one. That's mastery right there. And if you end up at you if you arrive at the end of the day exhausted, tired, overwhelmed, maybe a little bit deflated, impatient, frustrated, thinking, wow, I had to really wrestle with reality today. Maybe you feel initially that you don't have the energy to revise. Just pick one little thing and practice one little thing. Each pearl contributes enormously to your ripple of influence. So it doesn't matter what the size of the pearl is, just pick one little thing and just upgrade it in yourself. Could have been one moment rather than a gigantic series. Okay, that will help to build the strength and muscle of revising. Fix imagination, persist despite conditions, revise. Genius. Love that. Amazing. Focused attention and seen, unwavering, fulfilled. Beautiful, beautiful. Loving it. Okay, so here's a very simple take-home practice is the three-step evening flow, 30 seconds revising anything you reacted to, 2 to 3 minutes in your sat scene, and then final inner statement, this is who I am now. So we covered that pretty much there, the daily triple. So if you want to take a screenshot of that, okay. And then really to wrap up the series before we go into a little bit of breakout right now is the state of the wish fulfilled is not a one-time act. Okay, it's not a one-time, it's a lifestyle. It's a new way of being. And those that are in the Inner Freedom Academy will appreciate, understand that it's this grand view of ourselves in our becoming that blocks us from experiencing the special now granular moments that are atomic in power, seismic in their power, to create ripple effects into larger manifestations. So, said that in a very different way, said in crayons, okay? Instead of going for the big, juicy things that the ego says that it wants in order to satisfy its perception of lack, start with everything. Everything of any size, of any dimension, of any meaning to you in your life, whether it's staging before you go to the store, you get in the car to go to work, picking up a son or a daughter, whether it's before making a phone call, making a cup of tea or a coffee, stage everything and practice the intentionality, the imagination, and bring your senses into it. Bring your five senses into the imaginal scene that if you're picking up a coffee before you've made it, that I can just feel the warmth. I can feel the glow. I can feel the glow up, from my first sip, whatever it may be. I can feel my body expand. I can feel my nervous system. Not that I'm promoting coffee as a as a stimulant right now, but you get the impression. Okay. Um, so it is a lifestyle. It's a whole new way of being. This is the fifth dimensional way of being. And if I go off piste for a minute and just go a little bit to Sermon on the Mount, this is where humanity is headed. A lot of people are going to wrestle with the invitation to declutter, de-noise, de-identify from the old tribal methodology and way of being and thinking, the collective tribal way of living into the sovereign way of being, that you have direct access to source because you are source. You are living embodiments of God and source energy. Therefore, you are moving through segments, experiencing deliberately, intentionally, and masterfully those experiences of your choosing, so that you're not reliant on the outside world. It doesn't mean that money won't exist or houses or cars or all these sort of things. It means that you are now no longer reliant on a third dimensional God. Yeah. This is where we're heading. And this is why we're doing these masterclasses. This is why people are joining the academy. And those that are on the call, you know who you are. Um, you may have a sense of this, but this is behind the scenes, the invitation, because if you have a sense this is where it's going, then don't be the lone wolf. Amplify and accelerate the hockey stick, the learning curve, the embodiment curve, and join us. You'll find some details. Okay. All right. So this is the work, but it's also the joy, because once you assume and persist, the world has no choice but to conform. Because once you assume and persist, the world has no choice but to conform. If this is your first time hearing something like that, you may be sitting really on the fence and getting those splinters. I'm not sure that's true. How can that be true? Spiritual energy moves, vibrates faster at a faster rate than third dimensional physical energy. You are pure spirit. You are pure imagination. Therefore, you vibrate faster at imagination than you do at your physicality. So the outside world must comply. It renders your vibration. It reflects your vibration back. And with persistence and faith to the unseen, to the third dimension, to the physical senses, persistence and faith, it must, under compulsion, render it unto you. It must. Okay. So let this be your new normal. You imagine it clearly. Imagine it clearly. You feel it naturally. You trust the unfolding. You persist in the assumption, and the unseen becomes seen. Pretty cool, right? Pretty powerful. So you can feel a dislodging of third dimensional code, a dislodging of tribal collective structure. You can feel that being dislodged within you, because a higher truth that has always been available is now rising really, really quickly to the surface and super freeing 100%. So I hope you enjoyed the masterclass. If you have any questions, we're going to dive into those right now. Bring yourself up and let's go for it. Any insights, any questions, any feedback, any ahas? Some of them up. Yep, I'm pretty good. That's inside. That's locked in. It's like, shh, open the can. Here it is. Okay. All right. So I'm going to unmute all of you, or ask you to unmute. And if you want to say anything, then feel free. I forgot you guys were all muted. Yeah.
Hi, Matthew.
Hey, Janine.
So many ahas. I mean, that emoji, just the mind blown. I mean, this particular class today is just so perfect just perfect timing of what I'm experiencing. So I just wanted to um, share that, and bring that into more of my awareness, because I'm so mind blown right now because of everything you just shared. is like amplified. Like it's so huge. One quick question I did have when you were talking about the past,
Yeah.
like, uh, could you go into that just a little bit deeper, just so I am really clear on that?
Okay. So in relation to how the past vibrates
Yeah.
as our perceived present third dimension.
Correct. Yeah, just
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm getting it, you know.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, it's such a fascinating topic to go into, but when the penny drops, it's groundbreaking. It's earth-shaking because you go, ah, my gosh, okay, this is a reality reshaping in itself. Everything you see outside of you right now in the physical dimension, using and interacting with the third dimension through your physical senses, sight, taste, touch, yada yada yada. Everything that you interact with in the third dimension right now is vibrating at a slower rate than the quantum field.
Okay.
Therefore, everything that I observe through my lens of perception, relative to my beliefs, relative to my values, relative to my state of consciousness, everything that I observe and then determine as being good or bad, right or wrong, for me or against me, I have a response to or a reaction to, everything is the past reflected in the the previous present moment. The previous present moment is reflected slower than the now.
Okay.
So
Okay.
your previous thoughts, like, oh, I've been thinking about red roses. I can smell red roses. I'm seeing red roses around. I'm speaking to my aunt who loves red roses. I'm drinking out of a teacup that's got red roses on it. And I've been thinking about it. And there's red cars and all these sort of things all day long. And maybe for a couple of days. Now the rendering process occurs because your reticular activating system is using those primers to create very specific biases within your neural network and your optic return network to then pick up all of that that's rendered outside of you. So it's what you were entertaining that is now projected back to you. So when you want something, the idea that first comes to you is, oh, I'd really love this. I really desire that. Now you start thinking of it. Now you start feeling it. Now you start moving into it. Now you start saturating your subconscious with it, and you don't skim around the edges or try and bust down doors or break through metaphoric windows to get in as quickly as you can. You're wading into the experience and enjoying it. And what you'll find is the expectation that is going to be it is going to be rendered back to you, mirrored back to you, is there in your faith, underpinned by your knowledge and your appreciation of the quantum laws. So if you know that if I give attention to something, it must, by virtue of my attention and consistent, persistent faith and repetition, it must return to me whole. Yeah. Therefore, it must return, be reflected back to me. But if I'm giving attention sloppily to all these other sort of things, which so many people still do, I don't want this, I don't want that, I'm unconscious in my thinking or my interactions or my reactions to life because I feel I have no power or I have very little power because I'm at the mercy to the external world. Now, what they see reflected back to them are all the previous thoughts rendered in their outer world, and they wonder why they stay in the loop because they don't see that the outer world is the past. So, in order to change the outer world's reflection, again, they must give attention to new topics, new feelings, new language within the body, within,
Oh, makes sense.
yeah,
Okay, perfect.
such a
Oh,
good question. Yeah.
oh, thank you so much. Yeah, just wanted to have some clearer understanding.
Yeah, perfect. Projection loop. Yeah, perception loop. Anyone else have a question or an insight or a share before?
Yes, I can say something about this, and my struggle with this, and maybe the reason why I feel like maybe go back and forth. because in my surroundings, most people don't think in this way, but they are obsessed with the conditions, and they either get angry with conditions, or they complain, or they try to do something, and they don't have enough vision and enough preparation in this way. And then I sometimes feel like when I do, um, that's why I don't witness enough of that reality. Although I have to fix my imagination, I have to work more also on my frequency and vibration, because I am constantly dragged in this hustle of others. Because I
Mm.
try to fit in, and then I see that I can't fit in, that it is not good for me. And then I tried a little bit of this, but then I don't persist. And then again think, well, if I give up of this, then maybe I should again start trying to do this in this other way. And that's the problem. I really have to become more stable. And that's the big insight right now from this one. And it's funny. Does it mean that we are the only persistent ones here because we are participating live?
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much. So you're calling, there's a hunger. And so that's why, if you want to refer to scripture, there will be a great hunger that will come upon the world. And it's a hunger for truth. And this is the truth. And so
Yeah, this is exactly. This was said. I was listening to one lecture from a philosophy professor. Philosopher Kant wrote about idealism versus materialism long ago, and said that we have to become transcendent. So it must be that we will become transcendent more and more.
very much, this is where we're headed.
Mm.
Absolutely. And just, Craig's put a note there for you as well. So carry forward because this is where the third dimension, we are moving progressively out of heavy third dimensional structure and tribal occupation, collective thinking, things they believe in the facts. They're bound by artifacts. They're essentially living in the past, looping in very small deviations, very slight shifts and changes in the loop to give people the perception that they are moving forward or that change is occurring, when in fact it's not, because their consciousness has been ensnared in that loop. So when you feel like the word denouncing, if you denounce something, it's different to rejecting. So if I reject something, then I have a reaction to it, which at some level shows that I believe it to be true and I reject it. No, go away. It's not for me. But I'm enrolled in the opposite end. So I'm entangled with it. That's wrong. I'm right. That's not for me. This is for me. But denouncing something, like when we go to have conversations with others, or we encounter other conversations with people that are teaching us, they're showing us that we're no longer vibing and wanting an energetic relationship with that third dimensional factual occupational thinking. That's when we denounce it, we just turn our back and we say, that's not for me. I have no charge. It has no charge over me. Yeah. That's how we start shifting reality. So sovereignty and transcendental, the transference of consciousness from this current old octave into these new higher octaves of self-expression and awakening, it's inevitable. It's inevitable. And so, yeah, free yourself by giving yourself permission to continue. Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic, Craig. Loving it. Well, it's been great. Did you want to share anything, Craig, before we wrap up? Or you have
I,
on your keyboard?
yeah, yeah, I mean, I could go on a tangent for sure, but I think just I mean, I'm here just in this master class. I mean, I'm in the academy, obviously. I would say 6 months ago, so was it 7 months ago? I'd never even heard of Neville or any of the New Thought sort of authors that are from that same time period, or even going back further, to like the 18th century. Um, and in that time frame, I mean, yeah, I'm showing up here to just reinforce, like to extract more wisdom from it, because every single time you go through this stuff, it's almost like an incantation. I mean, like you hear the same thing, but it's like you're perceiving it with a new level of consciousness. So like, Maria, you said like, oh, I keep sort of playing with it and not committing to it. And it's like, but that awareness that you have, that's like the very first key, like that's the drop right there is that you are absolutely aware that that's what you're doing. So it's like you're observing it. Now you have the power to utilize these tools to just go straight into it and dive into it. So it's not even it's like you are in the right place. Just believe in that, right? Like just like you were in the right place at the right time. Like I said, 6 months ago, I didn't know any of this stuff. And I could tell you that I went from there to having some pretty massive experiences and awakening that have nothing to do with Neville at all, really. It's just sort of the same concepts in terms of how you view yourself and the world and stuff like that. But yeah, when I hear things like we're leaving this density for other things, it's like, yeah, I've been experiencing things that I don't know, like they've just said that there's more people awakening. And so maybe I've biased, some kind of confirmation bias because of my experience. But I mean, yeah, from the stuff that I've experienced from zero to now, it's just mind blowing.
Mm.
So I would say just stick with it, and just follow your path and just yeah, just commit to it because you're in the right place. You're here for a reason.
Yeah,
For
very cool.
sure.
Very cool. Love it. Love it. You guys are awesome. Thank you for your energy, your attention, and your vibes. Yeah, good to come together. So, yeah, you'll see us in the group. And any questions, DM me through school if you'd like, and go from there. But it is reality shifting having these conversations because there's a vibrational attunement and a truth that you get ported into. So you are going to feel different as you converse within the self and within, group like this. Wonderful. Have a beautiful day. Great to see you. Thank you for both, all three of you for joining. See you in the field.